I used to feel quite broken. Didn't matter how much therapy I had or how much self-awareness I gained. There was always something emotional that would hijack me, some kind of trigger that I couldn't get past even though I knew the causes behind it. I would always cycle back to just feeling anger, shame, guilt, or sadness. And I did truly believe that there was something deeply wrong with me that meant that I was never able to control my emotions, no matter how much therapy I had. Then my friend started training in a technique called memory reconsolidation that didn't just help me find out why I was reacting emotionally in this way, like I did in therapy over many sessions, over many years. It didn't just help me manage my emotions, it actually took away the power that they had at their core. And it changed absolutely everything for me. For years and years, I was just stuck in a loop. And I knew what my triggers were. I knew that I would be triggered by conflict, criticism, not feeling productive enough, not being perfect. And I knew that my reactions were always a lot bigger than the situation actually warranted. There was a part of my brain that knew I shouldn't be reacting in this extreme way, but I genuinely couldn't help it. And because I knew in my mind that this was an extreme reaction and that I shouldn't be reacting this way, I would beat myself up because I felt so angry with myself, and I actually just hated myself and hated the fact that I couldn't control myself. And I'd end up in this rage, shame, sadness spiral where I'd get so angry with myself and why couldn't I just be different, and then I'd get angry and I'd cry, just in this horrific spiral that would just get worse and worse and just make me feel so terrible. And I really had a terrible relationship with myself because of it. And my most common question that I would ask myself over and over was, what's wrong with me? And this was just looping in the back of my head with everything that I was doing. Anytime I encountered a minor inconvenience, I would go back to this narrative and ask, what's wrong with me? And when you ask a question like that, your brain is always going to answer with something really negative. And traditional therapy did help me realize why I was reacting in certain ways. I figured out that it's because of the way that my mum reacted to me when I was young and that kind of thing. But this insight wasn't enough to actually solve the problem. Even when I knew the trigger, I just couldn't stop that flood of emotion. It was like my body was living in a past that my mind couldn't reason with. There was a disconnect between the adult part of my brain that was saying, this isn't a big deal, and the child part of my brain deep in the back of my subconscious mind that was just screaming and just in so much pain. A pain which would resurface any time that part of my brain was triggered. Then my friend started training in the technique called memory reconsolidation, also known as Coherence Therapy. He asked me if he could practice on me. He was saying how amazing it was, and initially I was quite skeptical. The idea is that your brain holds on to emotional learnings that feel like reality to you in your own experience until you unlearn these emotional patterns, not just by talking about them, not just by having the insight. You have to unlearn them from an emotional place. Coherence therapy guides you to find the exact belief or emotional truth that makes your symptom make sense to you from an emotional place, not just thinking about it. And the most amazing part is it can do this even if that emotional truth is completely unconscious. Because through the process, you make that emotional truth conscious. And once it's conscious, you bring in a new emotional experience that contradicts it, whilst your brain's window for change is open. And that's when the real transformation happens. I'm training to do this now too. So I'll give you an example that I just did this morning. Let me start at the beginning. I was talking to my boyfriend about some ideas that I had for content. And I said something like thinking it was a good idea, and he said, "No, don't do that. I wouldn't do that. That's not good." And my reaction to that was of panic. He walked out of the room to go get some water. And whilst he was gone, I was just trying to think of all the ways that I could reword what I'd said and to explain it differently so that he would agree with me. And the whole time he was gone, it was only a couple of minutes, but it felt like a long time because I had this panic in me that was way stronger than the actual situation warranted. From that, I knew this is a symptom that is probably something that my brain picked up at a young age that I need to unlearn through memory reconsolidation. So I did the process for myself this morning. The first step is you have to actually allow yourself to feel that emotion. And for me, it was like this horrible feeling of panic that was going up my throat and almost like choking me. And it felt like a fire was rising into my neck. And my belly felt like sinking, like I'd just been punched in the stomach. And as I went through the process and imagined myself being seen in this emotional way, I felt as if people were reacting to me in a very angry way. People's reaction to me was one of stone cold anger, stony faced, very scary, completely lacking in empathy. And when I really blasted myself with it, initially I felt some resistance. My body didn't want to feel this kind of pain, but you have to feel it in order to be able to undo it. But your body, your emotions will try and protect you from it. Just in the same way that I was trying to protect myself from it by getting my boyfriend to agree with me, getting him to react to me in a different way that wasn't anger at me, which made me feel like I was a terrible person and there was something wrong with me. And when you really get to the core of the reason why that situation upsets you so much and makes you feel this crazy way, once you open this part of your brain up, you can actually bring in something from your adult life, a time that completely contradicts your inner belief. And for me, in this case, it was emotional evidence in my life for a time when I disagreed with someone and they thought that I was wrong about something, but they still loved me and they still accepted me. And the beauty about these emotional responses is that they are so specific and there is a real formula for getting rid of them. And once I realised and I felt the truth of this in my body, the same way that I felt the truth of that horrible feeling initially, I just had a complete release of emotion. I just started crying and all of the emotional pain that I was feeling before released, and I was relieved. And I was so happy because this is the first time I'd managed to do it on myself. And I had had it happen to me numerous times before when my friend was doing the technique on me. But going through each step of the process on my own just hammered in how amazing this technique is. I can see how much it works. It's not just words, it's not just thoughts, it's a whole body shift. And I had other ones. Another one was that I had this felt belief that I needed to be perfect in order for my family to love me, or that I needed to be super productive and be the best at everything in order for people to like me, in order to have friends. And logically, I knew that none of these were true, but there was an emotional part of me that still believed that they were true. So here's what was happening in my brain. When we remember something, our brain temporarily reactivates it. So we have to go and remember that feeling from as early as we can possibly remember. We need to get to the core of that feeling. That's the reconsolidation window. If in that window we experience something that contradicts our original belief, that's when it can completely shift it. Like being loved when we expected rejection. The brain rewires this memory with that new learning, and it makes it not painful anymore. It's not just layering over it, it's actually rewiring it at the root. And that's why this technique doesn't take years. It can dissolve lifelong patterns in just a few hours, because it's working with how the brain naturally updates its memories. So I've used memory reconsolidation to heal so many really powerful wounds that have had a huge impact on the way I've lived my life. From feeling like I needed to be perfect or productive all the time, my fear of being truly seen, which I realised gave rise to my depression, to my pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable people or seeking male validation. It's like I've been meeting parts of myself that have been frozen in time. And every time I integrate a new emotional truth, that part of me gets to come home. If therapy for you has felt like managing your symptoms rather than healing them, if you're stuck in emotional patterns that make no logical sense to you, maybe it's not because you're broken. Maybe there's just a part of you that has been trying to protect you all along. A part that has been frozen in time. And when that part of you feels truly seen, it doesn't need to scream anymore. Please let me know in the comments if this resonated with you. This technique has worked for me so well, and I think it's so amazing and everyone should know about it. So I'm actually training how to do it myself. So if you're curious to try this, feel free to find me on Insta or TikTok and send me a DM. Because I'm so keen to see this work for other people as well as it's worked for me. Please share this with someone that you feel can benefit from it. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.